Welcome. Welcome back to those of you who are joining me again. This is episode number 14 of the Darkness to Light Godcast. Gratitude to you all for continuing to tune in. And this one has kind of unfolded over the last probably hour and a half. The plan was to talk about spirituality and meditation, which I'm absolutely going to do, no question about it. I've got a feeling that needs to be number 18. That one power infinitely, my favourite number, that sacred number. I've got a feeling that needs to be about spirituality. And quite funny thinking about it, I was kind of planning meditation, kind of came through yesterday, and thinking about how I was going to talk about meditation and what it is and how it goes together, and then possibly even provide a wee bit of the experience on here, which is a wee bit difficult with the music. The music that I use is obviously copyrighted, so it's a wee bit difficult to put it out publicly. The way that I use it in the kind of private settings, and the plan was to talk about all that kind of stuff, God and spirituality. And in the last probably hour and a half, things have changed massively. So this one's going to be different. This one's it's a wee bit off the cuff. There's been very little preparation towards it, which is fine, and sometimes that's the best way. And it came off the back of the weekend. We're right in the middle of the Scottish tour just now, the Reset and Reconnect tour. We're just about to get into week 3. We're going to air on Sunday. Last Sunday we were up in Aberdeen. Week before that, Dundee. Gratitude to all who showed up on Sunday. We had 65, I believe, and which is interesting. The numbers that sign up for it. It's fascinating watching. You know, normally the numbers that sign up was 160, 170 signed up on Sunday. And 65 showed up, and the numbers are normally not far away. You know, if 300 people sign up, you'll normally get between 100 and 150, so it's normally between probably a third and a half of the people that actually sign up for it and register an interest. It's normally a half that they show up, which is always fascinating to me, you know, when people decide to go to something and then don't make it. It's always interesting, and it's all good, you know, it's always the numbers that show up, the people that show up are always perfect. In Aberdeen, the last weekend, it's probably 30 years since I've been up there, which was, you know, it was great to see it. What a beautiful part of the world. You know, some of the country roads took a couple of wrong turns on the way up, trying to find the site that I was staying in. We stayed in a caravan site. Michael and Fern had the RV. They're on the road full time, and myself, I went up. Didn't take the TP. Only took a small tent, a two-man tent, normally for me and Murph. And then another programme member, a couple, they come up, and we had a night on the Saturday, and then the event on the Sunday. It was really interesting, because almost every single time, whenever it's been a presentation, whether it's the one-on-one stuff, you know, here at the Vortex, or whether it's the group stuff, whether it's the One Day to Change Your Life, whether it's the corporate stuff, you know, the Big Brave and Believes, the Reset and Reconnect tour, almost every single time, I can't really think at a time when I come back and I was disappointed in terms of how it went, or it didn't go the way that I wanted it to go. Almost every single time, it's normally I come back, and it's interesting for me watching myself at the beginning, you know, as I go through it, you know, planning before it and thinking about the stuff that I would like to share. And what I want to talk about, and the experience I would like to, you know, help people get to. That's always a plan. It normally happens the week before it, you know, and then certainly the couple of days before it, leading up to it. You know, I'm really I'm tuning in and going through, you know, my journals and my notes and remembering why I'm doing it. You know, what's the reason, what's the why, what's the plan with it. And last week was very different, and the results that, you know, certainly that I felt coming home on Sunday night and Monday, you know, and how I felt at the beginning of the week. Which was less than great. I didn't really have the experience was great, but me looking back on it, and I'm obviously you're checking in to see, you know, what you could have done or how it could have went, and it just didn't feel, you know, the way that I would like it to feel, or the way that it normally always feels. And as Abraham Hicks, you know, taught me a long time ago, contrast is a great thing. You know, the pain and suffering and things not going well, that's where you get your best lessons. That's where you get the fuel for the fire to get back in and then go, right, okay, like, you know, what can we do? What can we do differently? What went wrong in terms of why did I not get the result that I desired? And it was very simple. You know, on Sunday, I kind of felt a wee bit stale. We've been doing, this is the third week, we've been doing the live meditations every morning. So Monday to Friday, 5:30 in the morning, the programme members, the community, the online and in person community that's within the Vortex, the members within that, 3 weeks ago, we started the online guided breathwork meditation every single morning. It's 7 days a week. Monday to Fridays, 5:30 in the morning. Saturday's a wee bit later. And then Sunday is normally, that would be like again, it's more like a guided breathwork. And then into a kind of relaxation. The focus on the Sunday and the Wednesday is more to do with the kind of guided breathwork. Monday to Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, that's more, maybe 5-10 minutes of breathwork, and then it's more about a kind of a guided meditation, just sitting in meditation and the music, which has been fantastic. But this last week, the week previously leading up to Aberdeen, the 5:30s every morning, and then a load of late nights where I was working to some of the nights it was kind of 11:30. Friday night when I finished, we had a session on Friday night, and it was almost 11:30, 12 o'clock by the time I got finished from 5:30 in the morning. And then all day Saturday preparing the amount of stuff that needs charged and all the stuff that needs to go in the van in terms of the banners and the speakers and just making sure when you're driving 3 hours away you need to have all the stuff there. So it was a full day Saturday. And up there on Saturday night, and we had a great night. It was fantastic. But me, and I've always struggled kind of sleeping. I've always struggled sleeping until probably fairly recently with a nervous system that's been switched on most of my adult life. But when I'm in a tent, and when you can feel the people run about you. I've been with my wife for 30 years now, so you're used to sleeping, in the bed with somebody and in your space and all that kind of stuff. So when you go away from that and you're in a tent, that there's people running about you that are snoring and opening zips at 3-4 times during the night. I didn't sleep at all the whole kind of Saturday night. I was up most of the night. My day started very early on Sunday morning. I had a good 2-3 hours to myself. Did a lot of breath work, did some yoga outside with the rabbits, which was great, on the grass and just kind of watching the world wake up. But the time that I got to the event on Sunday itself, I kind of felt a wee bit stale. I felt a wee bit tired, a wee bit sluggish, and I think it was just the fact that I've been almost like doing this too much, doing the presentations and doing the language and in terms of the language that I use and how I take people through the experience. By the time I got to Sunday, I just felt a wee bit kind of stale with it, a wee bit as if I'd kind of done too much. Add into that obviously the lack of sleep the night before and everything else, lying in a tent all night, all that kind of stuff. I just felt a wee bit stale, and the presentation was pretty good. It was probably a 9 out of 10. It was pretty good. I think the people that were there and that stuck around to get the whole thing, they got the experience. A lot of people had never been through breathwork before. A lot of people never had sat in meditation before. A lot of people had, which was really interesting. When I'm now talking about spirituality and God, which is where all this is going, then it's interesting to watch the people that really understand it and the ones that are smiling and nodding, and you can actually see that the experience that I'm talking about, when I talk about the enlightened experience that I had many years ago, and that reconnection back to all that I am, which is what this is all about, with this work, the amount of people that were sitting nodding in agreement and that was really interesting to watch. That's something that wasn't there a while ago, over the last couple of years since I've been doing this more publicly, I suppose. People don't really, you never really seen that. A lot of times you just get people kind of staring at you and you're not quite sure what's going on. But certainly on Sunday up in Aberdeen, people had an idea because of their own work, that what I was talking about, which was fantastic. And the event was great. We had a great day. We had a fantastic day. It stayed dry. Again, the sun came out a wee bit. Aberdeen's absolutely beautiful. The countryside took a couple of wrong turns on the way up trying to find the campsite. And just some of the kind of, the locations and they back country roads and the way that some people live, their houses and their homes and some of the farms and the steadings that you see and the livestock and the space that's up there. Was really it was absolutely beautiful and given me an absolute desire to get around a bit more of this country, because I've not seen a fair chunk of it yet at my age, which there's no excuse for that. So the plan is to get out and do more of that, and get around about it, so we had a great day. It was a fantastic event. Heading back on the Sunday night, really tired, a wee bit stale, absolutely burst by the time I got home. It took me about 3.5 hours to get back. And then, a good night's sleep, woke up on the Monday morning And interestingly enough, I was wanted to get the Google reviews. A couple of people had put in some Google reviews, and we get our first ever 4-star review. Every single review so far has been a 5-star review, and we got our first 4-star review. And it was interesting. There was 3 people that actually left during the event. That's the second time that's ever happened. Very quickly, 2 people got up and left, and I think I was talking about my experience with vaccinations and the damage that I believe that the vaccines did to my body, and the challenges that I still face with them. And off the back of that, I kind of felt 2 people got up and left. And then there was another person who got up probably 2 hours into it, sat up and basically, made their way out and left. And it was the person that left the second time they gave the 4-star review. And the comment that was made was about the meditation and how they enjoyed a wee bit of the meditation, and how they had the possibility to switch off the nervous system. And it was interesting for me looking at it, because the comment that they made in terms of the meditation bit was great. When they left, we hadn't been through the meditation, so that was interesting, people's concept of what meditation is and how it goes together. And that kind of fed into why this podcast, this Godcast, was going to be talking about meditation and spirituality, so that people understand. There's a very big difference between relaxation and contemplation, and then meditation. Completely different. Purpose of meditation is to connect with God. The rest of the stuff is just to kind of calm, the physical self and the mind, and give yourself a break. That's really very, very different. And that was the plan, was to talk about that. And then I'm now tuning in, and I'm going, right, okay, so, what is it we're actually doing? What is this process? What is this program? What am I actually doing with this work? And that's fed into this Godcast. This Godcast is all about the intentional life. It was actually Fern, when we spoke on Monday or Tuesday, who was talking about what it is we're actually doing. And it's the intentional life. It's living with intention. And what does that even mean? That's the thing I would like to talk about on this Godcast. What does that even mean, to live with intention? Because people have no idea. As I began this journey way back, and I think back to when I had that kind of awakening in terms of almost losing my life, and having to do things in a different way. I grew up on, a normal guy, the school, football, you're a wee bit older, you go to work, you earn your money, you go out, you party, you do your thing, just the normal existence of living. That's where it started for me, where you're just going through life, and you're basically chasing money and trying to get to the things and trying to get to the stuff. Looking forward to your next new car, or your new watch, or your new holiday, and really the stuff that's in the circus, the stuff that basically entertains you and keeps you driving forward, and keeps you that place of being in desire, and try to attract things into your life, setting your goals and try to get to the next part. That's kind of where I was, just going through this life in ignorance, no real understanding of what life was all about. Really, my life would have been, work all my life, end up to a point where I would retired. I'd probably, if I didn't get through Ibiza, I'd probably been a multi-millionaire by now, because my soul desire, but one of my main intentions was to be successful, because that's what I grew up with. That was my life, and money's absolutely and obviously a part of that. That's where I was, like just going through this life, and no intention, not living with intention, just chasing stuff, getting up, knocking my pan in every single day, no real direction, moving forward, I suppose, in terms of moving through my life, but no real kind of desire or plan as to where I was going to go, just probably enjoying it as I was making my way through it. And when the wheels came off for me, and I lost everything, when I came out the other side of that, when I was really ill, then life was really kind of happening to me. That's what it felt like at the time. Every single thing that was going on in my life, and in fact going wrong with my life, when the wheels come off, and basically the rudder was kind of snapped, and the sails were blown to bits, I was basically just kind of bounced about, and life and all the stuff that was going on with me was a direct result of me just being lost, in this realm, this reality we're in just now. I had no way really out of it. And that's when you start to look back and you think about the detrimental effect of the medication that I was on, the stressful environment that I was living in terms of myself, the stress that I was under on every level, the mental stress, the emotional stress, the physical stress on every level of my body, and really just in a state of survival. And then when I came out of that, when I got around about this work, and I had my first really profound experience through personal development, the guided breath work and the reconnection back through switching off the stress and just really getting a break from myself and the madness that I was living at that time. For a period after that, I kind of felt that, for whatever reason, that there was some sort of kind of divine plan for me. I felt as if God had a plan for me, as if I'd been spared. And I had a really truly profound experience when I was in the cells, in the Guardia Civil cells over in Ibiza, where my life I felt was slipping away from me. I felt as if I was dying because of the hematomas in my head and the dehydration and the heat exhaustion, as well as the beatings and the literal torture that I'd been through. But I remember at the time I was like licking the walls, or taking the moisture off the walls to try and get some water into my system, the condensation inside the kind of the last wee cell that I was in. And this presence came. I remember this presence coming in where I just kind of stopped and I just let go. And I felt this real kind of calmness. Now, it took me probably 20 years to remember that experience for whatever reason. But looking back on it, it was possibly the first time where I felt like a real connection of the divine coming in. Even though at the time I was in a really kind of, obviously not in the best of places, where my life was on the line. The phase after, when I came out of that, where life was happening to me, then I felt like God kind of had a plan for me. Really interesting phase to be in, where you're kind of waiting for things to happen, and you're trying to kind of find your way, but at the same time, at the time I was trying to rebuild my confidence and get myself back together again. But this feeling of like, everything's going to be okay, and kind of God's going to look after you, which I think's a lot to do with kind of the way the religion is, and that was probably my programming at the time, coming up through organised religion, and my belief system in terms of what God was, my belief system in terms of like my part within that, and my relationship to all of that, waiting for God to do something for me, and it didn't go too well. Nothing much really happened for a long period of time, and I can't even remember exactly how much longer it was after that. But certainly looking back now, all the stuff that I now know over the last kind of over a quarter of a century of doing this work, at a certain point, it was probably, it could be between maybe 3, 4, 5 years into it, I had the realisation that, what I brought to it, how I showed up, how I was, what I was expecting from the day, what I was expecting from my life, the tools and the techniques, and the practices that I was doing, what I was discovering was the more I put into myself, the more time that I put into myself, the more, I suppose, effort at the time in terms of the work that I was doing, what I would see very, very quickly was the direct results in my life day to day were getting better and better. And that's called, for me, living with intention. When you put this intentional work into yourself, then things are going to get better very, very quickly. At the start for me, it was, I started juicing, so I would be juicing my apples and my carrots and my oranges. I changed my diet radically. I remember back in 1998 it would have been, I saw Anthony Robbins for the first time down in London, and the Monday was called Living Health, the seminar. And they spoke about breath work, they spoke about the lad that does his training, the man that does his training. I believe he still does it for him. He was talking about how if you breathe in a certain way, then you'll never ever have cancer, which really caught my attention. My gran died with cancer when I was young, which was the only real death I'd experienced at that time, and it really impacted me negatively. But thinking about learning to breathe properly, the way they were teaching, and how you would never ever have cancer. Cancer then became an option, which was obviously really significant. And they were talking about the detrimental effects of the Western diet, and the quality of the food that you're eating, whether it's chicken or whether it's the eggs or whether it's the milk, and just to be aware, of what you're putting into your body, so really living with intention, really kind of being aware of what it is you're doing to yourself, and in fact, what you bring to it. That was probably the start of it. But it wasn't for a good few years after that where I really started to take control. I did start juicing right away. Probably around about that time, I started like putting the disciplines in place every single day, bought the juicer, started to invest my time into, making sure the fruit was there, and then actually things like, which sounds, for me really, really kind of so significant, but at the time, when you're doing it, putting the kind of the macerator under the sink so you get rid of all the kind of pulp as opposed to try to bin it every day. Things like that I was doing, and I was adding to it every single day. The meditation came into it probably just after that. But cleaning up my diet, training in a different way, so getting into exercise, being mindful, even before mindfulness existed, being aware of where I was spending my time, what I was thinking about, who I was spending my time with, what I was putting into myself. in terms of the personal development tapes, the cassettes, which became a way of life for me. I stopped listening to the radio, stopped listening to the news, I stopped buying newspapers, I stopped all the medications. Obviously the drink, drugs and rock and roll, that was all stopped from 1996. That was completely gone. All of that had stopped. And I really kind of started, without actually probably knowing it, I started to live by intention myself. And I was seeing the results because my life was just getting better and better almost every single day, it felt like at that time. When you get on about this work, especially if you've been in a place where I was, and I see it still, I see people that are really struggling, a lot of them broken and really kind of decimated, a lot of people. When you get to that place of like feeling good again, when you get to that place of like where your well-being returns and you start to get things like being excited again and being happy again and feeling things like joy and love again, which I had lost. I had no feelings and no emotions. So when I got that back again, you get this kind of up curve, which is life-changing. And the realisation that life actually comes from you, that started around about that time. I started to realise that the more I put into myself, then the better life was going to get. And that's the intentional life. That's what the intentional life is all about. And really now, the programme that I'm teaching, the programme that I'm sharing is all about living with intention. That's what the entire system is all about. And that's what we're trying to take to the world. That's the intention with this work, is to give people their power back, is to reconnect them back to the way they're meant to feel. Which is good. Human beings, I believe, are supposed to feel good, just as a starter for 10. We're supposed to sleep well. We're supposed to, be able to switch off the nervous system. We're supposed to be able to have peace of mind, I do believe. Sleep is such a significant thing, and it's something that I'm dealing with every single day just now. And now that I sleep properly, I slept probably for 6 hours last night like an absolute baby. I wake every morning before my alarm goes off, and that process of how I get to sleep, how I prepare for sleep, when I'm listening to my body and being aware of what I need, and then giving my body exactly what it needs, that's intentional living. And the benefits of it and the way that it goes together, that's something that so few people have any understanding of. And it applies to everything. It applies to every single thing that you're doing. And watching the way the world is just now and seeing where people are, how many people are struggling, how many people are suffering, how many people are living in lack, how many people are living in fear, how many people are sick, how many people are in dis-ease. I spoke to a good friend of mine yesterday who's in business, and anybody that's in the business world just now, watching what's going on, as I came from, not the corporate. I say corporate a lot of the time. I mean, like I was in the building trade, so the whether it's the building trade or whether it's corporate, the whatever you're doing in this life is really, really difficult just now. And watching how he's just manning his way through it, basically with coffee, and fighting his way through it and just working really, really hard, probably harder than he's ever worked before, and then seeing the detrimental effect that it's having on himself. This really kind of short-term survival plan that he's got, just day to day, like trying to man up and make his way through it, and then seeing how he's doing it in terms of the practices and the tools and any techniques that he's using on himself, and there's none of that at all. So there's no intention in any way, shape or form, just basically getting up, dusting yourself down and going again every single day. That's what I see with most people that I meet. They're just basically in this state of survival, which is something, when you look at the world, so many people are struggling just now, so many people are suffering. And I do believe there's a different way of doing it. And I do believe this intentional life, this intentional way of living is the way back. And, when you start to break it down, when you start to look at, what's involved in it, what is it we're actually doing, what's the plan, what's the process, why should you do it? Why should you come along? This event on Sunday at Ayr, there's over 200 people signed up already. So we should get between 75 and 100, hopefully. There's a forecast of a wee bit of rain meant to come on Sunday. Again, I saw in Aberdeen last week, where the sun came out just before it, and I had a wee kind of smile with Michael. Like, here we go again. The sun shines in the righteous. It was just interesting watching, how the sun and the kind of weather, how it seems to show up whenever we do these events. But for Sunday, when people sign up for this and they're coming into it, what's the plan? What's my intention with it? And really, it's to kind of sell an intentional life. Even though it's for free, it's to sell an intentional life. It's to give people these tools and these techniques to become empowered, to reconnect back to the way that it's meant to be, which for somebody who has no idea what I'm talking about, that can be really, really challenging. One of the comments that somebody made, a guy made on TikTok. God bless the TikTokers. I don't do TikTok. Now Fern is running the TikTok account for the Vortex, as well as the Facebook Vortex account. I'm still running the Jim McFadyen account and the original Vortex page, but there's a separate one now which is just purely, for the business side of things. And one of the TikTokers had basically had a go and basically said, look, you get into Aberdeen Beach on a Sunday morning for a wee bit of peace and quiet, and then there's this nutter with a microphone, shouting about power in God. And I don't believe I was shouting. I was probably raising my voice, and it probably was loud. But and this guy follows on TikTok apparently. He's on everything, he's commenting everything, and it was a detrimental comment. And then you look at his page and you see who he is. And you're like, okay, I get where you are, and I get you look at me, and you look at what I'm doing, and you don't understand it. And that's ignorance. That's just pure ignorance. And ignorance is a really it's sort of like a confrontational word, isn't it? When you call somebody ignorant, you're challenging them. You might even they might even think you're looking for a fight. But ignorance just means we don't know. Ignorance just means that you've never been shown it, you've never been educated, or you don't know what it is you're talking about. And as Jesus, Krishna and the Buddha all said, ignorance is our only sin. Ignorance, the world is in ignorance just now. That's very, very clear for those who have, I suppose, transcended ignorance and can see, the challenges of the world. I see it every day just now, looking out the window in July, the way that the skies are filled in, the way the weather is, this constant, the heavy skies and whatever it is that's in the sky. I watched a wee a scientific an explanation the other day in terms of the amount of aluminium that's in the rain just now, in rainwater, and it takes it back to the 80s, and how many when they did the scientific, the studies and the tests, when they take the rainwater and they see the amount of heavy metals and particularly aluminium that's in the rainwater, and you fast forward that to now today, and you see whatever it is that's in the skies, so when you can see that and you see it for what it is, most people don't know. I remember that was one of my first ever, I suppose, conspiracy theories. It's funny how most of the conspiracy theories are now true, but the lad at the time, this was back in 2015 or 16, he was talking about exactly that. Funny enough, that the geoengineering, the chemtrails, and I remember at the time thinking, what do you mean? What are you talking about? What do you mean they put stuff into the skies? And what do you? And now it's one of the biggest challenges that I face, in terms of seeing, the skies every single day. Anybody who's of my age can remember what summers used to be like, back in the day, back in Scotland up here, where you had an absolute summer. You had actually seasons every single year. Summer was, over a certain period of time. I remember Wimbledon almost every single year, where the courts would be burned and you'd be outside playing the entire summer. I remember autumn, that definite shift into autumn. And then winter time was always heavy, heavy snow. Absolutely. And then you get a spring as well. So there was definite seasons. And obviously they're going about the global warming and the effect on the environment, which I don't buy. I really don't. I really do believe, as a lot of people do, we have absolute responsibility in terms of what we are doing, the waste that we produce. But the lack of sunlight, the amount of rain that we're facing, and the fact they admit it, the fact that they say it is, and as an actual fact, that we are spraying stuff in the skies every single day, and the way they would do it. And the medical medium, Anthony William, he did a podcast on it. He was talking about it, how originally it was done there was no ill intention behind it. It was just really to try and get rid of the excess, the poisons that were coming off the chemical industry, all the different, the big industrial chemistries, to get rid of it. If they put it into the rivers and the seas, then it'd been too toxic, so they started spraying into the skies. And now you hear people like obviously Bill Gates and a lot of these the world leaders, talking about spraying into the sky and protecting us for the sun and the benefits to the environment. We saw it in Dubai recently with all the floods, the cloud seeding and so it's a real thing. It's something that we face, absolutely. So ignorance would be that you don't know that's going on. Ignorance would be like, it's just, summer's bad, and when you see a a weather forecast. It's supposed to be nice 2 weeks on Tuesday, and then lo and behold, 2 weeks on Tuesday, there's not a cloud in the sky, and then a couple of days later it goes back to normal again. Certainly in Scotland, back to normal today in July, 40 mile an hour winds, and since early this morning, just filled in grey skies, which is really, really challenging. So ignorance can be bliss, when you're just going about your day-to-day life, but awareness, I believe you need to see things the way they are so we can do something about it, so we can fix it. How you fix that, I don't know. That to me would be above kind of government level probably, whoever's doing that, whoever's putting these poisons into the sky. But awareness to see how it goes together. Once you have awareness, then you can do something about it. And for most people who are in ignorance, there's really nothing you can do. And that comment that the dude made, having a go, and then especially since he follows on TikTok. So at that point for me, I would have wanted to get in about it and see what it actually was before I comment. And when you have the awareness, then you start to look at everything. And when you become intentional as to how you're going to make it better, then everything changes. And that's what this entire program, that's what this entire system, that's what my work is all about. It's about re-empowering people back to the way it's meant to be. And it's actually really simple. It's a really simple process as to how we get there and how we do it. But it's no easy. Simple but no easy because of where most people are, because they are trapped with their programs, their belief systems, and absolutely locked into ignorance. We are so lost. I mean, people talk about snowflakes all the time, how the inability to deal with adversity, the inability to see things how they are. That's where most people are. We're locked in ignorance. And this is all about awareness. This work is all about awareness. The awareness to know through direct experience and the reconnection back to how it's meant to be. And in fact, not just who you are, but what you are. That's what this entire process is all about. The reconnection back to the divine that's inside every single one of us. That's what it's about. That's what the intentional life is all about. Now, there's so many bits you can add to it. There's so many bits that basically go into it. Living with intention, for me, and I think in my own life, in terms of how I live my own life, diet is absolutely paramount. I can tell where I am in terms of how I'm feeling purely by what I put in my mouth, and probably because my system has been so clean at certain points over the years. Again, people don't really know what it feels like to feel good. God bless those who are struggling just now. Again, through ignorance, the amount of people that you see that are massively obese. I saw a young lass the other day who must have been mid-20s, and God bless her soul, she could hardly walk. She was so overweight. And the person I was with at the time, straight away was like, you could feel the judgment and kind of, why don't you do something about that kind of thing? That they verbalised that. Why would you be like that? Why could you do like that? And straight away, that isn't her fault. That would be the ignorance of the parents and the environment that she's been born into, and in terms of how she's eaten, how she's been fueling herself, the amount of food, that we eat. You walk into any supermarket and probably 95 to 99% of it is absolute poison in terms of what the body needs. The amount of different, the chemicals and the way that they create it. I saw another wee study the other day talking about it was two of the big fast food chains in America, which I don't think are here, but they basically did the ingredients test just to see what was in it. And the properties that are in it are designed to make you addicted to this fast food. And when you look at the conditions of that people are getting into just through ignorance, that young lass, what her parents have fed her whole life, what's she going to do about it? What can she do when she's a child and she's basically living on, obviously, the amount of food that she's eating, the types of wrong food that she's eating, and you get to a point in your life when you're in your 20s where you've got this way that you believe is the only way to do it, and it's almost too much. In fact, it is too much for people to make a change, to get it back to the way that it could be, because the re-education process and the changes that you would need to make, and it doesn't matter where you are, incidentally, you can be 40 stone, and you could be on your deathbed, but there always is a way back, absolutely. But the changes that would need to be made to get back to that way of getting back into vitality and back into natural, real health, organic, vital health. There's almost, it's nigh on impossible for someone like that to make their way back just because of the life experience, the programming, their taste buds in terms of what they need in food, in terms of what they're addicted to, the chemicals that are within the food, how it basically affects the body and how it kind of locks you in, the sugars and how the taste buds are basically addicted to all this kind of stuff. So the way back for someone like that is almost impossible. So that's ignorance. That would be ignorance. So being aware, of what the food that you're putting in, and the negative impact that it has on your body, how it affects every single cell in the body, how it affects your energy levels, when your body's having to digest, you take something like a Big Mac or a heavy takeaway, or the fats and the grease and the poisons and the oils and all the different numbers and the colourings that's designed to make it taste good. When you take something like that and you realise that the negative effect that it's having on your body, how do you change that? How do you make your way back? And normally for people, it comes to a point of like disease. Normally comes to the point where it's so bad that their life needs to be on the line. Well, a lot of this work, that's the case. Especially with addictions and people that are really, really suffering. It normally needs to get to that point where it's almost your life is on the line before you're going to make changes. And that's just because of all the above, all that programming, the way the brain's set up to go about and get what it needs to make it reach that place of being okay. So ignorance absolutely is a huge part of it. Having the awareness to change that, and then how you change that is what this is all about. So diet for me is a huge thing. Absolutely, the type of water that you drink as well is absolutely huge. I use a Big Berkey water filter. That's my choice. It's got all the heavy metals and the fluoride. The filters in it, which I just heard last week that they've banned in America. I don't know whether that's true. I still need to look into it, but and I certainly saw the price of the filters for the Big Berkey. I've been using them for probably the last 4 or 5 years. When you take the tap water and it goes in, it takes everything out, and it tastes the way that I believe water's meant to taste. But again, in ignorance, we don't really know. People are just drinking out the tap, or even the plastic bottles. The amount of plastics that are in the water when you're drinking out the plastic bottles, again making us sick. So the intentional life, would be to have the awareness and start to look at your life and see how it's going, checking in and see how you're doing. I've got a process that I use called the Wheel of Your Life, where we basically identify all the different spokes to your life. So your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, your spiritual health. How's it going? How do you feel? How happy are you? How joyful are you? What's your relationship like with yourself? What's your relationship like with others? Things like your work, your income, the money in the bank, how successful do you feel? These are all different things that you do in your life. And when people come in, especially it's a one day to change your life that I normally do this, we basically identify between 0 and 10, like how's it going? So 0 is I'm going to kill myself and I'm finished and I'm done and dusted. Whereas if you mark it at a 10, something like your mental health's at a 10, then obviously that's as good as it's going to get. And then you go around all the different spokes to your wheel, and we mark on the wheel how's it going. Then you can see very quickly how you're going through your life, so how the wheel of your life is moving forward. You can see the spokes that are struggling. So if you're like that young lass last week, sitting with just her physical health, probably me looking in, and she might be completely different. She might be completely happy and joyful. She certainly didn't look happy or joyful. But looking in at that, you would look at her physical health, and straight away, I would say she was at a 1 or a 2. Where that spoke in the wheel of her life is just about to snap. And if that physical health, if that spoke snaps, then the rest of the wheel doesn't matter. The same's true of the mental health. Again, that young lass is an example. If you were to ask her how she's doing, me looking in from the outside, her mental well-being and how she feels, even the amount of energy that it takes just to walk, obviously it must be a struggle, the stress that it's put on your physical body, the stress that it must put on your mind, how you're sleeping, how you're going through your day. Again, that spoke's going to be really, really low. And again, if the mental health spoke, if that breaks, the rest of the wheel doesn't really matter. So having the awareness and having the intention as to how you can make that better, that's a starter for 10. And once you've got it, then you take it to every single area of your life. And that's what this journey is all about, the intentional life. Everything matters at this stage. So many people are suffering, so many people are going through this life in so many challenging ways. People are in a state of survival. We can see that, the amount of people that are basically, you can drive up any high street in Scotland just now, probably in the Western world, and you can see where people are. I saw it in Aberdeen last week. You see the town centre, and you can see kind of how people are living their lives. And it's not the best. We are absolutely struggling. And then you look to the solutions. What are the solutions? What's the way back? How do we make it better? And that's what this is all about. It's a reconnection back to the way that it's meant to be. That starts by the reconnection back to the self, absolutely. The way that I do that is breath work, learning to breathe properly, no matter where you are, no matter how you're starting off. That's the starter for 10. It's the one thing that we all do. It's an unconscious process that once you make it conscious, and once you start to look into a wee bit of the science of it, how it's going to make you feel in terms of how you upregulate your nervous system. Sometimes it's okay to generate a wee bit of good stress. The reason we breathe is to generate life force. So if you're struggling from a lack of energy, if you're struggling, making your way through the day, if you're constantly tired, then learning to breathe properly is going to change your life. It's something as simple as that. Again, an ignorance. Now, I heard about breath work. And I played professional sports when I was younger, played professional football for a short period of time, was always around about sports. When I left football, it was martial arts, karate for years, and then it was ultra-distance cycling, ultra-distance running. I did 3 Ironmen back-to-back, full-distance Ironmen back-to-back. And not once did I ever, consider, how significant breathing was. I always knew that I struggled, always felt as if I had a challenge with my lungs because of the vaccines. My immune system, the viruses and the chest infections and the stuff that would go wrong with me, which was my entire life up until the age of 45. But never did I have any idea in terms of the benefit of breath work. I spoke to a really decorated Olympian, a really famous person last year. I reached out to them. They'd been through something that I'd been through in childhood, and I reached out to them and basically just sent a message on Instagram, and they come back to me straight away, just saying thanks very much, thanks for your support, and what is it you do, what do you do? Because I was basically offering a solution to the challenge that they were facing. And we get chatting a wee bit kind of back and forward, and this is a really, really famous person worldwide, and the question was, at the sport that you were in, at an elite level, and I would consider this the hardest sport there is. There's this sport which is cycling, and then there's also the cross country, the cross country skiing. And they're considered to be the hardest sports in terms of what the physical demands on the body. Cycling for me, if you've ever done any, I never did competitive cycling just because of my physical health. I never ever cycled really hard, but the challenges that you face with cycling in terms of what the body needs to survive, when you're under that stress and under that strain, the ability to breathe properly and the benefits of it. And the question I asked him was what's your experience with breath work? What do you know about breathing? And this is somebody who has many, many gold medals, decorated in every way, multi-millionaire, really world famous, and zero was the answer. And almost what do you mean? What do you mean by breathing? You breathe, you take it in, you basically blow it out. And there's a natural, I suppose, the genetics and the DNA and what you come into this world, that's your lot. But the ignorance of not knowing, the benefits of that, I couldn't believe it. I could not believe everything that I know. Me as not a layman, an educated layman, I suppose, but me coming in and learning how the breath goes together, especially for somebody like him, at that level where you take in this breath and the benefits it can have in every single system, every single cell in the body, how the lactate gets shipped, how the body is able to use this life force. Which is why we breathe, where you take in this inspiration, this life-giving inspiration, this inspired breath, and then if you know how it works properly, then the benefits that I have for somebody like him, at his level, at world level, and what he was doing, the fact that he did not know how to breathe, and I know the team that he was in, the cycling team that he was in, the money they spent, in terms of everything, they called it the marginal gains at the time, so everything mattered, the food, the bike, the science, the doctors, the doping as well, probably the stuff that they were taking to basically go and win the stuff that they were winning, but the fact that the one thing, for somebody at that level to not know how to breathe properly, I couldn't believe it, so that's ignorance again, just being that we don't know. So the power of the breath, every single human being, that's the one thing we've got in common. And no matter what your religion is, your belief system, what flag that you stand underneath, who you think you are, the country you represent, whatever that is, the one thing that we human beings all need to do is learn how to breathe properly. And that's the starter for time with everything. If you're interested in an intentional life, you're interested in feeling better, you're interested in taking back your power and reconnecting back to the way it has to be or the way that it should be, then it needs to be breath work. Breath work will change your life in so many different ways. That's a starter for 10. Once you have the breath, once you actually switch off that stress, again, another benefit of breath work, and in fact probably cold exposure, but it doesn't need to be cold exposure, but learning to breathe properly will change your life in so many ways that you can't even imagine. And then at that point, once we switch off the stress, once we can then get out of the head, then we can then start to take the rest of this into your life. And once you get a wee taste of it, once you get a taste of how you're supposed to feel, then at that point everything becomes easy. For me, it's black and white, or sugar and shite, as I would say. I either do one thing and I'm either all in or I'm all out. And with the intention of life, and I've certainly since Sunday, because of the pain and the suffering and the contrast, I'm back to being absolutely full on again. I'm doing everything again. I've taken all the processed foods out of my diet, including the caffeines. A couple of things I was doing which were detrimental to me, they are gone completely, and I'm back on side again. I'm back into this place of well-being. I'm back to the way that I know that I'm able to feel, but sometimes, I let it slip and I go down a different path, and then I get a wee bit of time at that where I kind of seem to go off piste a wee bit or go off course, and then before you know it, I'm lost and I'm not feeling good, and I get an experience like I did on Sunday, and in fact driving back in Sunday night and then into Monday, where I'm like, okay, this isn't working the way I would like it to be. What do I need to do? What do I need to change it? Blessed with free will, blessed with the ability to do something about it, then you're able to do something about it, and that's the intentional life. Living with intention is what it's all about. And everything matters, every single bit of it matters. How you breathe, how you sleep, the amount of people that are not sleeping properly. I talk about mouth tape, again I mentioned it again on Sunday, mouth tape, and the amount of people that have no idea that when you breathe in through your mouth you're generating stress. I remember the first time I heard that, going back probably 10 years ago, people were mouth taping. Before I even heard the Patrick McFadyen, people were mouth taping at night time just to make sure, to ensure that you don't breathe in and out through your mouth at night time. So anybody who's struggling with sleep, anybody who's up during the night, anybody who's up for a pee, anybody who's waking up with a dry throat, or the apneas, the sleep apneas, when you're breathing in and out through your mouth, especially, I think it's 16 and a half inches. When the neck reaches a certain size, then obviously it starts to kind of compress the airways a wee bit. So anybody who's overweight and you're breathing in and out through your mouth at night time, when you're sleeping, when you're supposed to be switched off, and the body's meant to be regenerating, and repairing, if you're breathing in and out through your mouth, then you're generating stress. So your nervous system, when you're supposed to be switched off, is getting chased by a lion. Now, because we're so unsensitive to stress just now, we are absolutely bombarded with stress. The adrenals are firing all the time for most people in this constant state of stress, fight and flight, this constant state of like chronic stress. Then people don't even realise that that's the thing. Again, it's an ignorance. We don't know the benefits of how, well, maybe we do know the benefits, we don't know how to sleep properly. Most people have no idea how you're supposed to sleep properly, how to switch off your mind. Once that chronic stress gets looped in, that figure eight loop that's in your head, in your brain, you're taking your to-do list to bed, you're taking your worries and your stresses to bed. For so many people, the amount of people that I know that are getting, and they've got their watches on, so they're watching their watch all night to see how much sleep they're not getting, which is absolute madness. But if you're breathing through your mouth at night time, you're generating stress. If you're up for a pee during the night, you wake up, the next day, normally you get to sleep half an hour before the alarm goes off. The minute you wake up, it's like, oh, here we go again, the grogginess, the tiredness. First thing you do, bang, it's the caffeine. Get the coffee into you, get the sugar into you, get the kind of, the foods that are going to help you feel a wee bit of relief and kind of soothe you and start to make you feel a wee bit better, so you can then start to even contemplate your day. So learning to sleep properly, sleeping with intention, is so significant and so important, and there's a whole process that I teach how to do that. I teach my students the best day ever starts the night before. You don't wait till you wake up the next day, to see how it's going to go. That would be madness to me. That's like walking into, it's like me walking into that event on Sunday and just seeing how it goes, turning up with no preparation whatsoever. Even though I had such a challenging week last week and I was absolutely stale and tired and no broken, but no far away from it, with a lack of sleep on Sunday morning. Getting up out of that tent, when I was lying, like trying to do my breathing and switch my mind off, all that kind of stuff, and trying to put in preparation to what I was going to say. At the same time, I probably did 3 hours of preparation, intentional work on myself, so that I could be the absolute best, the preparation before when that mic gets switched on, which is interesting for me, again, every single time that I do it. I'm driving up there on Saturday, and tears of just gratitude, the ability to do this, the training that I've put in over the years, the education, the self-education and the lessons through my own experience, and then the desire to help people for free. The tears of gratitude, I could feel my mum almost sitting beside me in the van on the way up. The conversation I would have loved to have with her, in the physical form, how proud she would have been, and I can feel that she still is, obviously, but being able to share that with her, because every single time I come back from an event, the first thing Mum would ask was, how many people were there? And the second time she would ask was, how much did you make? And she could never understand how 99%, almost all of it at the time, was for free. So the numbers were really significant to her. And driving up there on that day, just really kind of, really grateful, the ability to go up and share these tools and techniques and processes to help people find relief, to switch off their nervous system, to feel better, to reconnect back to the way that it's meant to be, reconnection back to their self, reconnection back with each other, reconnection back with the earth, back with the sea, Mother Nature, and then for many of them, reconnection back with the divine. Driving up on Saturday thinking about that and feeling, that how my mum would have loved us and the conversations we would have had, that preparation, everything leading up, and then the Sunday morning with no sleep, waking up and spending like at least 3 hours, loads of tears. When I get overwhelmed, the tears will come through, absolutely. The tears of relief, no sadness, but absolute relief. In the nervous system, just expressing the energy and letting it go. The preparation that it takes to get to that point of when Sunday morning, when the mic goes on, it's the very best that I can do on that day. That's what I'm gearing towards. And it's funny watching me, as a human being, as Jim, the guy that basically grew up playing football and all the stuff that I did. I still say I was meant to be a footballer. It's fascinating to me, even sitting doing this, talking about the stuff that I'm talking about, how it's unfolded. But the preparation to get to that point, and then watching me before, a couple of times I get caught, especially on a Sunday morning, and even watching people show up. I was like, holy shit, I need to get my shit together here. I'm the one that's going to have to stand up and do this. Now, that comes from the preparation before it. And that's what happens the night before. The best day ever starts the night before. You would never walk on and switch on that mic and just see how it goes. That would be madness. And that's every single day to me. How the day starts the night before, how you prepare the night before, how you prepare for sleep. Wi-Fi, absolutely. Switching off the Wi-Fi, what you're eating, and what time you're eating before bed. If you're eating too late before bed, especially the heavy foods, then you're digesting all night. Again, if you're not sleeping properly, you need to be thinking about, or I would advise, thinking about what you're eating before you go to bed. The caffeine, whether it's coffee or tea, the amount of caffeine that's in tea. People get away with it, don't drink coffee, but they're rattling tea into them, as I used to do. An absolute tea Jenny, grew up with that with my mum, the just loving 2, 3, 4 cups of tea a day, and then it's probably the biscuit that would go with it. So it's having that awareness to see the negative impact and the effect that it's having on your body. And most people don't really know that. Most people don't know what it feels like to feel good. That was the thing that I discovered way back. I remember the first ever proper juice cleanse that I did. After about 6 or 7 days, I'd never felt as good in my life. That the clarity and the vitality and the level of energy. This was before any breath work or cold exposure or any of that kind of stuff. It was purely just by taking away the stresses in my diet and really giving this kind of mostly organic at the time. It was the amount of organic juice over 5 or 6 days. I felt as if I could almost hear the grass grow. I felt so powerful. I felt so alive in the way that I was meant to feel. And at the time, I remember thinking, Jesus Christ, people don't know what this feels like. Because people have never ever done that. They just go through their life just eating this poison, the stagnation, what the body has to do to convert it to energy. You look at these Big Macs and the hamburgers and the fast food. When you take that in, the body's going to convert it to energy. So there's a net gain. You can either gain from your food, or it can be detrimental to you. So what it takes your body to convert that to energy, a lot of the times it takes more energy to convert it. That's why we eat the takeaways, and the amount of people you see having the 2 or 3 of the big burgers and the fries and the milkshake and then the cookies at the end, and you're exhausted after it. Of course you are, because your body's at a loss. What it's took to convert that to energy, and you don't know how to breathe, so you don't know how to generate energy the way that it's meant to be. So it's a net loss. So it's been detrimental in terms of what your body needs. So again, there's another awareness as to what you're putting into your body. How you sleep the night before, what you put into your mouth, what you put into your belly before you go to sleep is absolutely going to affect how you sleep. Preparation as to how you switch off the nervous system would be breath work, how you basically you calm the mind, you give yourself that space, and then way beyond that, starting to design through intentional living how you would like to feel. Most people can tell me where they don't want to be. Most people can tell me how bad it is, or where they are, or how much they're suffering, how much they're struggling, and that doesn't really matter, when you get into this work, because where you are or where you've been, we acknowledge that and we get it up and we talk about it. Very, very briefly. I get people, allow them to tell their story once, normally by text, tell me where you are. That's where the wheel's great. I can see somebody's wheel and I can tell exactly where they are. But the problem and solution are 2 different places. So at that point, once we know the problem, once we know the challenges, and you're not happy, or you're struggling, or you're in dis-ease and things aren't going well, at that point, then to move forward. And again, that's the intentional life, to take back control, to take back your power, to live with intention. You're the only person that can do it. I say that almost every single day. I can show you the way, but I can't do it for you. And normally the pain and the suffering and sometimes the decimation and people being broken and being in the bones of their arse and losing almost everything, at that point, then living with intention becomes easy. I'm watching it just now, one of my students who a month ago almost lost everything. within a hair of losing absolutely everything, probably rock bottom for the first time in his life. And then I've watched him over the last 4 or 5 weeks, every single day, the meditations, living with intention, the breath work. He was talking about, and he's a proper boy. He's a force of nature. I really kind of one of the boys, that if you to talk to him 2-3 years ago and tell him about this stuff and what we're doing in terms of the meditation, the breath work, and the cold export, they'll think we're off your nut. I think I was mental, some sort of kind of crazy fairy hippie. And then he was talking about how the other day he's sitting up just off the building site, sitting with his shoes off under a tree in his lunch break, just switching off his stress, basically breathing and meditating, right in the middle of one of the schemes in Glasgow, and just like knowing what he needs to do to tend to himself, having the awareness to realise what he needs to do to get through the rest of the day, to feel good, to be happy. So when he walks through the doors at night time, to his family, then they get the very best version of him. So the reason that came about is because of how low he was, being absolutely broken. But when you bring that intentional practice, when you bring like taking back control and taking back your power, then everything changed really, really quickly. It's amazing how quick it can happen. Again, the breath work. The breath work's what it's all about. So there is a way. It doesn't matter what it is or where you're starting from, where you're going. That's what it's all about. How you would like to be, how you would like to live, how we're going to get to that place, the promised land of how it was supposed to be. That's what this is all about. Freedom for everybody. Freedom of the heart, freedom of the soul, reconnection back into who we really are and what we really are. That's what the process is about. That's what this vortex and the work is all about. Living with intention is how we get there, and it applies to every single area of your life. What you eat, what you drink, what you're thinking about, how you sleep, who you're spending time with, what you're allowing in, having the awareness to see what's going into your head. If the news is on in the background and it's not doing you any harm, let me assure you, just the vibration of it and the noise. I see it sometimes when I go into my dad's house and the TV's on in the background. And you can just feel it. You can just feel the toxicity of the circus. I caught a wee snippet the other day, actually a picture on YouTube where it flags up, about the presidential debate in America, which I have no interest in whatsoever. The same here as well. Does it even matter, who comes in? Because it's just the same stuff. Nothing ever really changes, does it? It's funny just now. I'm watching there's a wee guy in Farfy here who's going to change the world. This wee politician, a wee SNP politician. And you're just looking at it and I'm like, God bless your soul, you are just wasting your time and wasting your life, even to think you can make any impact or any kind of change to the way that the world is. Nothing changes. Nothing within that realm, the politics, the circus, the zoo, nothing has ever changed. Doesn't matter who's in power or what goes on and about it. So the people that spend their time in that, and investing in it and trying to, get to the point where if he gets in, then everyone's going to change. And I'm like, good luck with that, good luck with that. So having that awareness and not getting caught up in it, being aware of what's coming through the television, that television, being aware of what's in the newspapers. I'll catch you when I walk into the garage. I'll tune in just to see where they are. What's going on within the zoo? What are they talking about? How are they entertaining the masses? And it's fascinating to watch the amount of people that they invest so much time and effort into it. And how does it make you feel? That's the question. How is it affecting you? Does it make you feel good or does it make you feel bad? That's a great question. That will change your life, that question. And when you realise the poisons and the toxicity that they're spewing onto us in every single way, having the awareness to step away from that. So what you're putting in, what you're listening to, what you're reading, who you're spending time with, what you're thinking about, how that affects every single cell in your body, how you're thinking will either make you sick or it'll make you healthy. It'll make you vital, or it'll put you into dis-ease, absolutely. Even just looking at the world just now. The wars, what's the possibility of like World War III and what's happening with the immigration and what's happening with people coming in and the lack of work, and it's like that every single day. You turn on the news or the television at any time. I've not watched the news since 1986. I haven't sat in front of a doctor since 1986. Don't do the newspapers. I have no idea what's going on in the world. Almost every single day somebody will say to me, did you see? And my answer's always the same, I don't watch it. I refuse to watch it because I know what they're trying to do to me. They're trying to make me sick. They're trying to put me into fear. They're trying to put me into separation. They're trying to get me into a place of worry. You take that to bed at night time, you take that into your day, all of a sudden you start to create your own reality. So where you're spending your time, what's going in, what you're taking in, again through ignorance, so few people understand the significance of that, and then the awareness to say, oh yeah, okay, this isn't actually making me feel that good. How can I do it in a different way? Everything matters at this stage. Our souls are literally on the line. Our souls are on the line. It's as simple as that. It's darkness versus light. You watch the world. I see I feel as if I'm online when I watching stuff. information, I will go into YouTube, and there's certain channels that I watch normally to do with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or martial arts, or I'll be watching breathwork stuff, or I'll be tuning into the good stuff. There's probably one. He's a truther, but he's a spiritual truther, so he's always talking about the solutions. A man from America I've been watching for a long time, who was involved in a spiritual practice I was in a long time ago. So the reason I got on about him was because of that, was his experiences of being in India, and he's a truther as well. His work is to bring the awareness of the truth to the world. So I'll sometimes tune in, but apart from that I don't see anything. But when you're tuning in to YouTube, when you're hitting the button to watch whatever it is I want to watch in the morning time when I'm making my juice, whatever I'm doing, and you'll see it coming up, and obviously Taylor Swift is in the UK just now, and then you see the truther stuff behind her, all the stuff that's going on with Sean Combs just now, and you know, all Hollywood and the music and the industry and how it's set up, and the darkness is involved in that, you know, and the detrimental effect. I think, I never knew this when my kids were young, I think of the amount of like artists that my kids were into, you know, people like Jay-Z and Beyonce. And now I see them, you know, and different now as well. I think way back in the day when I get into the truther stuff, I would watch them and I would see, you know, all the hidden stuff, the symbolism and how they prepare it, and the negative effect done by design. You know, so our souls are literally on the line. It's darkness versus light. And the dark side appear to be winning at the minute. They really do, because of numbers, because of the way that it's being controlled. But at the same time, there is so much light and power over force, which is one of the books up there, Dr. Hawkins, Power versus Force, the power of the divine, the power of the infinite mind, the power of God, compared to the sneakery and the trickery of all of that. You know, all those who have sold their soul, the Rolling Stones, I caught a wee snippet again, it was the Rolling Stones still gigging. And they openly talk about, you know, selling their soul, you know, and the gift of like eternal extended life, you know, in this lifetime, and getting all the worldly goods. So no wonder they're living and they're still rocking into their 70s and their 80s. But what's coming next would be the bit I would be concerned about, especially at their age, and what they've had to give up to attain all that. You know, so we're surrounded by it. Awareness to see what it is that's going on within the world. The awareness to see what they're trying to do to you. Your soul is on the line. Our children's and our grandchildren's souls are literally on the line. They're trying to make us sick. They are absolutely trying to make us sick with the medications, what's in the food, you know, what's in the water, what's in the air. They're trying to make us sick. You know, so having the awareness to see that, and then by the power of intention and the intentional life, with the ability to do something about it, everything matters at this stage of the game. And for me, the way we get it back is that reconnection back to the self, the true self, the authentic self, reconnecting back into your heart, back into your soul, beyond the body, beyond the mind, beyond the intellect, beyond the ego, beyond your identity. Watching the other day, I think it was probably Wim Hof, and it was like one of his things he used to say was like, no more ego, we go. And people don't really understand the ego. The ego is all things human, and the divine is obviously very, very different from that. The duality that we are in, the black and the white, the yin and the yang, this life experience, this literal circus and zoo we're in just now, the ego, you know, the minute you say I and identify as the lower self, as I identify as Jim, this being, this physical being, that's just a wee part of who we are. But at the same time, you know, inside of us, the true self, that reconnection back to you, the bit that's eternal, the bit that can never die, that's what this work is all about. Because once you reconnect back into that, then we reconnect back with each other. With the self, then with each other. I saw it on Sunday again at the end, people coming back to, first thing we do, we give each other a hug, a heartfelt hug. We use intention to project that feeling of unconditional love, the way that we're meant to feel, that sacred vibration, which is really close to the sacred vibration that we call God, that unconditional love, and you project it into another human being. So the reconnections that are taking place, once with the self, then it's with each other. And at that point, we've got a chance, because the power that is in every single one of us, we come into this realm as children of the divine. We carry it inside of us, absolutely, there is no question. I've experienced it. That oneness, that wholeness, that feeling of complete, that's what I got after 17, 18 years of devotional practice, with the singular intention to become enlightened. Enlightenment meaning the direct experience of all that I am. And let me tell you something, I now know it. I am that I am. I carry the divine inside of me. I absolutely know that because of my own experience. And I suppose one of the biggest things that I brought back from that, because it's inside me. I spent 17 or 18 years every single day living with intention, a devotional path to get this experience. When I came back, the realisation that because it's inside me, then it must be inside everybody. It's inside of us all, but again, through ignorance, we just don't know. Separated at birth, the school system, the pills, the medication, the trauma, whatever it is, to separate us from our hearts, from our souls, from the self, the true self, that reconnection back to the self, and then with each other, the planet. I say many times, our biggest sin is what we've done to this planet, what man has done to this planet. It is literally heartbreaking when you look at it, the damage that we've done. Reconnecting back to Mother Nature, the respect for Mother Nature, this environment we're in, which we absolutely are part of and absolutely need, of course we do. And then with the divine, reconnection back to the divine. So significant. Meditation, reconnection, sitting in silence. I watched that again with 26 people on this morning, sitting in meditation, sitting in silence, in silence and reconnecting back into themselves and absolutely reconnecting back with each other. At that point, we've got a chance. And the only way we get there, I do believe, is taking back control, taking back our power, living with intention. I teach 3 things: the power of awareness, the ability to see what it is that you're doing to yourself, what it is that people are actually doing to you, whether you're accepting these gifts or not. The Buddha says, once you see what somebody's trying to do to you, the Buddha's direct quote, so they say, was that when someone offers you a gift and you don't accept it, to whom does the gift belong? Obviously it still belongs to them, and that's the way that I see the news and the media and the stress and the strain and the drama from any other human being. I was online this morning and just, again, taking people off my page that I don't really know who they are in terms of, or I do know who they are, sorry. The ones that I don't know, they're fine, they can stay till I know who they are, but the ones that I do know who they are, the ones that are watching and the ones that are kind of sniping, and it's like, I just, they don't make me feel good, I will take them out of my life in a heartbeat. There's no question about it, because I want to feel good at all times. I want to be in that place of well-being at all times, the way that it's meant to be. Intentional living is the way we get out of this. There's no question about it. Taking back control and taking back our power. Back to the way that it's meant to be, which is in alignment with Mother Nature, in alignment with the elements and the divine. This isn't my way, this is the way it was supposed to be. And that's what this entire process is all about. So there you go, we go again. Sunday we are down to Ayr Beach, 10 o'clock Sunday morning. After that Loch Lomond, it's building up nicely every single week. I had a woman asked me yesterday online if I was qualified. Who's running this event? Are you qualified? Which is a great question. Of course it is. If you're going to go to something like this, you need to know that who's going to be taking you through it is qualified. But the way she was coming at it, she mentioned resets and she mentioned hypothermia, cold exposure hypothermia. And straight away I knew where she was coming from. She's coming for the old polar bear group in Glasgow. So resets, like dunking up and down under the water 100 times, madness to me, literal madness. Like the benefits of that, I have no idea, except the ego. Sitting in an ice bath, so she was talking about hypothermia. So hypothermia, if you get to hypothermia, I think I've had between well over 10,000 people now in cold exposure. I've never had a single detrimental effect on anybody. Either be cold, either get a shock to their system, a lot of them. But almost every single person, I would say it's been nigh on perfect, nearly perfect, the experience that they get. And that's because, number one, I know what I'm doing. It's been so many times. Trained by Wim Hof, obviously. I don't believe that's the right way to do it. It's too much stress for most people, especially since COVID. But I know how to do it. I'm looking for the stress response, so that takes about 1.5 to 2 minutes. I never time it. I can see the nervous system in people. So to think about our question like, are you trained how to deal with hypothermia? Again, if you get hypothermia with cold exposure, and again, I've heard that many times with people run about the polar bears, where it's 10 minutes. There was a lady phoned me yesterday. She was talking about she suffers from massive anxiety, panic attacks, and she went in and they're shouting and bawling, no breath work, shouting and bawling, then you're in the bath, up to your neck and tons of ice, and basically staying in there for 10 minutes. And I'm like, it's just a matter of time before somebody gets hurt. It's just a matter of time before somebody loses their life. No question about it whatsoever. That's too much stress. So if you get to hypothermia, if you're at that stage of hypothermia, you've got to question what you're doing. There is no way in this earth you should ever use cold exposure and get to that place of hypothermia. It's way too far. And that's the point I'm making here is Sunday is not about that. Sunday is not about cold exposure. Sunday is about reconnection back to all of the above, everything I've just mentioned. The breath work to reconnect back to the self, to learn how the nervous system switches off. Get out your head so we can get back into the heart. You're going to leave with a breath work practice. You'll leave with how to relax, how to switch off your mind. And you will absolutely leave with a meditation practice, how to reconnect back into the divine, 100%. And at that point, we're going to go and sit in the sea for probably a couple of minutes. the way we used to when we were young, we were bouncing about in Scotland. I remember going to the beach at any time of the year, and the water was always freezing. But it was fun, so we gave that up at some point, and it's about reconnecting back to that and taking that back, making it a wee bit fun and a wee bit of happiness and joy again. And then the benefits you get for that, sitting in the cold for a couple of minutes, what it does to the immune system, what it does to, the dopamine levels within your brain, what it does to every single system in your body, inflammation. It's like walking out with a cape on. I saw it this morning myself again, out in that belting down rain, a nice bath this morning. And I didn't want to get into it, but when I came out, oh my God, almost like reborn again, so soft and gentle is the way. There is no force. Breathwork, relaxation, reconnection, meditation, wee bit of cold exposure. That's the plan for Sunday at Ayr. I would be delighted and honoured if you would join us and allow me to share what I've learned over the last 27 years and give you this gift, anybody who's coming. And then at that point, there's going to be the opportunity to join the programme, to join this thing that I've created over the last 27 years. And it's not for everybody. It takes a load of work. It should never feel like work. It should always feel good. But it does take practices which come off the back of reasons. What's your reason and what's your why? That's the question I'm going to ask you. What's your reasons? Why are you doing it? If you've got a strong enough reason and a strong enough why, I do believe, in fact I know, you can get to whatever it is you're trying to get to. And that's the plan for Sunday, to share these tools, these techniques, and to give people this gift so they can take back their power and start to live the intentional life. Thank you all for tuning in. Send them my best gratitude, love, light and joy. For the greatest good always. That's what it's all about. Once you get it for yourself, as I did, then the plan is to pass it on and to give the gift away. And excited to share it with you. Anybody that's going on about the work, have a fantastic day. Peace out. As always, do your best, keep moving forward, we keep going, we never stop. I look forward to seeing you all soon. Have a fantastic day wherever you are, and goodbye for now. Thank you.